All right, so if I were coming back, say from like the weekend or something, when I go to add a coil onto this, I'm gonna score and slip that first coil on here. If it's been stored away, you always need to do that with the first one. But after that, if I'm adding like new clay to new clay, I don't have to do that. I just have to blend well, okay? So I have actually had this in the bag, and it was just over lunch, so it's still pretty wet. And I actually pre-rolled some coils to expedite things. So anyway, we're just gonna keep adding on to this. And I'm gonna do kind of like a small vase shape. So I'm gonna take my coil, and I might flatten it just a little bit. You don't have to, but I feel like this helps with the height. Kind of get to that height a little bit quicker. I'm just gonna use the rib to do that. That's a little uneven. Okay. So I wanna keep moving outward. So again, I'm gonna angle this to that outer edge, and you can kind of tell if you look up there that it's angled to the outer edge. And if your coil is too long, you'll just do what I showed you before, kind of overlap. It's just barely too long. So I'm just overlapping it, and I'm gonna cut that on an angle. Take off those little pieces that I cut off, and then it should butt right up neatly. Okay, so once again, I'm just gonna blend. And I'm just using my thumb because this clay is pretty soft, but again, you know, if you need to, if it's not working out too good with your thumb or finger, use that wooden tool because that makes it easier.
Excuse me.
You know I'm recording this, right?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I'm gonna edit it. If I wasn't going to before, I definitely am now. You can just see me putting this on YouTube and have like belching in the background.
Could you drop my Instagram?
No. Just picture me as that Bugs Bunny meme. No. Yeah. Okay. So blending the inside. And again, if you need to, if your thumb's not doing it, use the wooden tool. You just want to make sure it's together good. And also make sure you're doing it as you go so that the clay doesn't dry out because it's going to be harder to do and then you have a chance that it's going to fall apart. Okay, so I've got the inside. Now I got to get this coil on the outside. So I'm just kind of blending down like this. Notice I'm supporting with my hand on the inside. And this is so I'm not losing my shape here. And I'm just going to do this quick, kind of rough just to get it on there. And then after that, I'm going to go back and smooth it with a rib. So it's nice and smooth. Because if I let this sit like this and I try to go back later and smooth it out, it ain't gonna do. It ain't gonna go back together real nice. So, and then you'll lose points. Also, when we get done building these, once it gets to the leather hard stage, I'm gonna show you how to do this technique called Sgraffito that requires it to be nice and smooth on the surface. So if you have a bumpy surface, your Sgraffito is not gonna look too hot. So keep that in mind. You want it to be nice and smooth. I'm just using my fingers, but again, smooth rib works good. Clean it as you go. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and get all these little finger marks out of here. I don't wanna see that. Okay, but you can see now it's starting to turn outward, starting to get taller. So I'm just gonna take my rib, make sure it's clean, and I'm gonna support it from the inside, and I'm just gonna scrape up like this to smooth it out. Now, I don't want this to be too wide, so I'm going to start moving inward now. Now, here's the thing. Notice how this clay is kind of flimsy. You know, it's easy to move around and change shape. If I start putting too much weight on this, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to collapse, and that's really sad when that happens because there's no coming back from that. You just got to start over. So what we're going to have to do to keep this clay from collapsing is dry it just a little bit to leather hard before I add too much weight. And before I do that, I want to make sure that this is smoothed out as much as possible because once it's leather hard, it's a lot harder to do. Now, I didn't grab one, but if I wanted to, I could go back in the inside with a silicone rib, might be easier. But yeah, make sure that's good and smooth too. So make sure you smooth the outside good before you do any kind of blow drying. I can even like kind of use my fingers just to shape it a little bit because once I start drying it, it's gonna be hard to change it up. Because yeah, I'm gonna start having this come up and curve inward, and I don't want it to collapse, and I don't want the shape to warp. If this continues to be built on the way it is now, it's just gonna start falling outward, and it'll look like trash. And I won't be able to get the shape I want. So I'm gonna pause this and go dry it just a little bit.